The Whisper of the Doll Episode 3, The Path of Memory. Rika was driving down the narrow mountain road, guided by Elena's voice. The sun had nearly set and shadows began to stretch across the road. The trees lining the path seemed to grow denser, casting an eerie gloom. As she approached the place she remembered, a strange feeling of nostalgia mixed with a deep sense of foreboding filled her. This is it. The old mansion from Rika's memory slowly materialized in front of her, its gate barely visible behind the overgrown bushes. She stopped her car and stepped out, taking a deep breath. Beyond the gate stood the dilapidated house, surrounded by tall, ancient trees. Moss covered the walls, and most of the windows were broken, giving the place an abandoned, frozen-in-time appearance. Rika pushed open the rusty gate, which creaked loudly in protest. She walked cautiously, every step crunching dead leaves beneath her feet. The closer she got to the mansion's entrance, the louder her heart pounded in her chest. She couldn't tell if it was fear or curiosity that drove her forward. The heavy wooden door was corroded with rust, but with a bit of effort, it groaned open. Cold, damp air greeted her as she stepped into the dimly lit hallway. The faint light from her phone illuminated the dust-laden floorboards and cobwebbed corners. "Elena, are you here?" Rika's voice echoed in the stillness of the house. No answer. The silence only made the situation more unsettling. As she cautiously moved forward, her flashlight revealed old paintings hanging crookedly on the walls. One portrait in particular caught her eye, a painting of a young girl. The girl's eyes seemed to follow her as she passed, giving her an eerie feeling. She continued deeper into the house, and soon, a narrow staircase leading to the second floor came into view. The stairs groaned under her weight as she carefully ascended, her hand gripping the wooden railing that was rough with age. At the top of the stairs, a long corridor stretched out in front of her, lined with closed doors. But one door at the very end was slightly ajar. A faint light leaked out from behind it. "This is the place." The moment she thought that, Elena's voice whispered close to her ear again, clearer this time, as if the girl were right next to her. "Come find me." Rika shivered. The whisper was so close, she could almost feel Elena's breath. Gathering her courage, she walked toward the door and, with trembling hands, pushed it open. Inside was a small bedroom. The walls were faded pink, decorated with old, peeling wallpaper. Toys were scattered across the floor, and the room smelled of mildew and dust. In the center of the room stood a small wooden table, and on that table lay an old, tattered diary. Rika slowly approached the table, her eyes fixed on the diary. She flipped open the cover carefully. The handwriting inside was small and neat, likely written by a child. As she read, it became clear that this was Elena's diary, filled with the innocent entries of a young girl. "Today, I played with mother and father. I got a new doll today." But as Rika continued flipping through the pages, the entries became darker and more troubling. "Mother and father are gone. I'm all alone. The doll is speaking to me. It's asking for help. I can't leave this place. I'm trapped here." Rika's hands trembled as she read these words. Could it be that the very mansion she was standing in was where these events had unfolded? Was Elena truly trapped here all these years? Just then, a faint noise caught her attention. Rika looked up and saw that a large, old wardrobe at the back of the room was slightly ajar. Her heart raced as she stepped closer. With trembling hands, she pulled open the wardrobe doors. Inside, there was nothing, just darkness. But as she leaned closer to peer inside, a cold hand suddenly gripped hers from within the darkness. Rika screamed and yanked her hand back, stumbling away. The next moment, she heard Elena's voice again, this time even clearer. "Help me." Despite her fear, Rika was drawn back to the wardrobe. She looked inside once more and noticed a small, hidden door at the back of the wardrobe. The door was slightly open and a faint, eerie light shone through. "Elena." Compelled by the whisper, Rika opened the small door. Behind it was a narrow staircase leading down into what seemed to be a basement. Cold air flowed up from the darkness below, making her hesitate for a moment. "I have to go." Determined, Rika started down the staircase. The deeper she went, the colder and darker it became. Finally, she reached the bottom, where an old, musty room awaited. Shelves lined the walls, filled with dusty dolls, all staring lifelessly at her. "Find me." The whisper grew louder, leading her to the far corner of the room where a large, dusty mirror stood. Rika stepped in front of the mirror, her flashlight flickering. But when she looked into the reflection, instead of seeing herself, she saw the image of a small girl staring back at her from the other side. "Elena, is that you?" The girl nodded silently, tears brimming in her eyes. Then, without warning, the girl reached out from inside the mirror, her hand extending toward Rika. Terrified, Rika tried to back away, but she found herself frozen in place. The girl's hand grabbed hold of Rika, pulling her toward the mirror. Rika struggled to resist, but the force was too strong. In a final moment of panic, Rika screamed as she was pulled into the mirror, disappearing into the cold darkness. The room fell silent, leaving only the still reflection of the girl in the mirror, staring out.